Okay, welcome back. I'm going to see if I can do Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday's games all in one video, and this way I can have it uploaded all in one shot, and then I'll do the standings at the end of said video. So this could easily take half an hour. If you don't want to listen to me review all the games, just skip to the end and you can take a look at the standings as of Wednesday morning. So on Sunday, there were a total of 7 games. Starting in the Big Apple as the New York Rangers played host to the Seattle Kraken. In the first period, Riley Smith would kick things off for the Rangers, getting his 5th goal of the season from Miller and Zibanejad, 3:38 of the first frame. Oliver Bjorkstrand would tie the game up in the second, getting his 8th goal of the season. Power play goal from Stevenson and Matt Beniers, 1 minute and 46 seconds in the middle frame. Philip Chytil, I believe, is how you pronounce his name. I've been saying Cheadle this whole time, but I believe that C is silent. Would get his 5th goal of the season, putting the Rangers up 2-1 at that point. Assisted by Kakko and Cooley, 2:50 of the second period. Vincent Trocheck would increase the lead to 3-1, 4:47 in that same period, getting his 8th of the season, a power play goal, assisted by Adam Fox. Brandon Tanev would cut the deficit to 3-2. For Tanev, that'd be his 7th goal of the season, assisted by Stevens and Cardle. Or Cardy? Yeah. 14:06 of the second frame. A minute and a half after that, the Kraken would tie the game up at 3, courtesy of Tolvanen. He would get his 8th goal of the season from Bjorkstrand and Shane Wright. Bjorkstrand would give the Kraken their first lead of the game, his 2nd goal of the game as well. His 9th of the season, assisted by Montour and Tolvanen, and that goal happened with 36 seconds to go in the second. In the third period, exactly 1 minute into that frame, Vince Dunn would increase the lead to 5-3, getting his 3rd goal of the season from Burakovsky and Chandler Stevenson. Shane Wright would increase the lead to 6-3, getting his 7th goal of the year from Tolvanen and Bjorkstrand, 11:13 of the third period. I think it's safe to say that Wright has definitely found his place in Seattle after the first year he struggled and a little bit of struggling in his sophomore season last year. He is definitely right at home in Seattle. K'Andre Miller would cut into the lead, getting his 2nd goal of the season from Panarin and Adam Fox, 12:27 of the third period, making it 6-4 at that point. Alexis Lafreniere would cut the deficit to 6-5, getting his 9th goal of the season, assisted by Trocheck and Panarin, 14:57 of the third period. The Rangers would pull their goalie with over 2 minutes to go, but unfortunately it backfired as Yanni Gourde would get the empty net goal. That'd be his 5th goal of the season, assisted by Beniers and Oleksiak, 18:14 of the third period. So the Kraken would win 7-5, a very high-scoring game. All right, the next game took place in Vancouver as the Canucks played host to the Tampa Bay Lightning. The captain, Quinn Hughes, would kick things off in the first, getting his 7th goal of the season from Pius Sutter, 16:08 of the first. In the second, Nikita Kucherov would tie the game up at 1, getting his 13th goal of the year from McDonough and Braden Point, 4 minutes and 40 seconds of the second frame. Less than 2 minutes after that, Braden Point would give the Lightning their first lead of the game. For Point, that would be his 17th goal of the season on the power play, assisted by Kucherov and Hedman, 6:29 of the second period. Kiefer Sherwood would tie the game up at 2, 4:52 in the third period, getting his 8th goal of the year, assisted by Myers and Ratty. Jake Gensel would put the Lightning back on top with just under 4 minutes to go in the game. That'd be his 12th goal of the season, a power play marker from Kucherov and Braden Point. The Canucks would pull their goalie. Unfortunately, it did not pan out, and Braden Point would strike, getting his 2nd goal of the game, his 18th of the season, with 18 seconds to go in the game. So the Lightning would double up on the Canucks, 4-2. All right, the Ottawa Senators played host to the New York Islanders. In the first period, Adam Gaudette would get his 13th goal of the year from Gregor and Tim Stützle, 5:37 of the first period. Anders Lee would tie the game up at 1, getting his 12th goal of the year on the power play from Dobson and Palmieri, 12:27 of the first period. Just over 2 minutes after that, Kyle McLean would give the Islanders their first lead of the game, getting his second goal of the season from Chalkowski and Engvall, 14:48 of the first. Josh Norris would tie the game up early in the second period, just 37 seconds into the frame, getting his 12th goal of the year on the power play from Batherson and Tim Stützle. In the third period, Kyle Palmieri, would break the tie, getting his 11th goal of the year on the power play from Lee and Dobson, 13:46 of the third period. The Sens would pull their goalie down by 1. Unfortunately, it did not pan out as Bo Horvat would get the empty netter, making it 4-2 for Horvat. That'd be his 7th goal of the season, and that goal happened with 51 seconds remaining in the games. The Islanders would double up on the Sens, 4-2. The Winnipeg Jets played host to the Columbus Blue Jackets. In the second period, there was no scoring in the first. Kyle Connor would open up the scoring for the Jets, getting his 15th goal of the season, a power play goal from Morrissey and Scheifele. Just over a minute after that, Voronikov would get a power play goal of his own. That would be his 7th of the season from Marchenko and Werenski, 13:53 of the second frame, tying the game up at 1. In the third period, Kent Johnson would break the tie, getting his 7th goal of the season from Monahan and Van Riemsdyk, 7:15 of the third. He would score again just over 2 minutes after that, getting his 8th goal of the year from Van Riemsdyk and Provorov, 9:42 of the third period. The Jets would pull their goalie, but unfortunately they were not able to score. Sean Corrali would, though, getting his 3rd goal of the year, an empty netter, and that goal happened with 1 minute and 22 seconds to go in the game. So the Blue Jackets would stun the Jets 4-1. New Jersey Devils played host to the Colorado Avalanche. Ross Colton, welcome back, by the way, after he missed so many games with injuries, would get his 9th goal of the season from Mittelstadt and Nichushkin, 4:07 of the first period. Logan O'Connor would increase the lead to 2-0 for O'Connor. That'd be his 4th goal of the year, assisted by Dahan and Kiviranta, 14:52 of the first period. In the second, Arturi Lehkonen would increase the lead to 3-0, getting his 7th goal of the season, assisted by Mittelstadt, 14:36 of the second period. Late in the third, the Devils were down by 3 goals. They would pull their goalie with over 4 minutes to go. Unfortunately, it did not pan out, as Parker Kelly would get the empty netter, his 2nd of the season from Rantanen and Dahan. So the Avs would shut out the Devils 4-0. The Philadelphia Flyers played host to the Utah Hockey Club. There was no scoring in the first. Michael Carcone would break the tie in the second, getting his 2nd goal of the season, assisted by Bortozzo, 7:01 of the middle period. Just 19 seconds after that, Joel Farabee would tie the game up at 1, getting his 4th goal of the year from Sealer and Konechny, 7:20 of the second frame. About 2 minutes and 22 seconds after that, Valimaki would get his 1st goal of the year from Sergachev and McBain, giving the Kraken a 2-1 lead, 9:42 of the second frame. Owen Tippett would tie the game up 13:34 of the second period, getting his 8th goal of the year from Sealer and Michkov. With 4.5 minutes to go, Logan Cooley would break the tie, getting his 7th goal of the season, a power play marker from Genther and Keller. Late in the third, with just over 4 minutes to go, Stenlund will get a short-handed goal, his 3rd of the season, increasing the lead to 4-2, so the Hockey Club would double up on the Flyers 4-2. The Dallas Stars played host to the Calgary Flames. 1 minute into the first period, Jonathan Huberdeau would kick things off for the Flames, getting his 9th goal of the year, assisted by Nazem Kadri. Wyatt Johnston would tie the game up at 1, 4:26 of the first period, a short-handed goal. That would be his 6th goal of the season, unassisted. Jason Robertson would break the tie in the second, getting his sixth goal of the year from Bach and Labushkin, 7:47 of the second period. Connor Zary would tie the game up at 2, getting his sixth goal of the season from Miro Manov and Kuzmenko, 16:08 of the second frame. Rupe Hintz would break the tie in the third, getting his 11th goal of the year from Lindell and Robertson, 5:13 of the third period, giving the Stars a 3-2 lead. Sam Steele would double up on that score, getting his third of the year from Jamie Benn, 12:01 of the third period. Thomas Harley would increase the lead to 5-2, 13:02 of the third period, getting his third goal of the year from Lundqvist and Buck. Thomas Harley would score again, getting his second goal of the game, his fourth of the season from Marchment and Matt Duchesne, and that goal happened with 58 seconds to go in the third period. So that takes care of Sunday's games from the National Hockey League. As I said at the beginning, I'm just going to cover Mondays and Tuesdays all in the same video. There's really no point in me trying to upload 4 different videos or 3 different videos, especially when it takes so long. All right, so Monday, we only had 3 games on tap, so this should be a very quick to review this one. Starting in Montreal as the Canadiens played host to the Anaheim Ducks. In the first period, Patrick Laine, who has been red hot since he came back from his injury, would get his third goal of the season, a power play goal from Suzuki and Lane Hudson, 2:36 of the opening frame. Troy Terry would tie the game up at 1, getting his 7th goal of the season from Fowler and Harkins, 10:49 of the first frame. In the second, Troy Terry would get his second goal of the season. Second goal of the game, I apologize. His 8th goal of the season on the power play from Killorn and Vetrano, 4:25 of the second frame. Just 11 seconds after that, Kirby Dach would tie the game up at 2, getting his second goal of the season from Slavkovsky and Patrick Laine. That is a very good line. Hopefully they can all stay healthy and be very consistent for the rest of the season. There was no scoring in the rest of the second period, and there was no scoring in the third, and there was no scoring in overtime. So we would need a shootout to decide the winner. And big surprise, the guy who started the scoring off for the Habs, Patrick Laine, would end up getting the shootout winner, giving Montreal a 3-2 victory. All right, now we're off to Buffalo as the Sabres played host to the Detroit Red Wings. Zach Benson would kick things off for the Sabres in the first, getting his 4th goal of the season from Cousins and Krebs, 1:38 of the first period. Alex DeBrincat would tie the game up at 1, getting his 12th goal of the year from Dylan Larkin, 4:05 of the first frame. Andrew Kopp would put the Red Wings on top, 4:46 of the first, getting his 6th goal of the year from Comfer and Sider. Tage Thompson would tie the game up at 2, 10:25 in the first, getting his 15th goal of the year, assisted by Jason Zucker. Staying in the first, Jason Zucker would get on the goal scorer sheet himself, getting his 6th goal of the year from Krebs and Ryan McLeod, 15:26 of the first period. Early in the second, Lucas Raymond would tie the game up at 3, just 1:05 into the middle frame. For Raymond, that would be his 11th goal of the year from Larkin and Gustafsson. Nicholas Abu-Kubel, did he get traded? Because I thought he was on a different team. Maybe he has played for Buffalo. Would give the Sabres their lead back. That'd be his 1st goal of the year from Malistinen and Owen Power, 2:26 of the second frame. Jason Zucker would score again, getting his 2nd goal of the game, his 7th of the season, assisted by Ryan McLeod, 9:46 of the middle period. In the third, Andrew Kopp would get his 2nd goal of the game, his 7th of the season from Sherratt and JT Compher, 10:27 of the third. Morris Sider would tie the game up at 5, getting his 3rd goal of the season from Raymond and Edmondson, 15:42 of the third period. There was no scoring in the overtime, so we would need a shootout. The captain, Dylan Larkin, would get the game-winning goal, his 13th of the season, so the Red Wings would win 6-5 in a shootout. And the last game took place in New York as the Rangers played host to the Chicago Blackhawks, an original six matchup. Tyler Bertuzzi would kick things off for the Blackhawks in the first, getting his 6th goal of the year, assisted by Taylor Hall, 8 minutes and 10 seconds of the first. Will Cooley would tie the game up at 1, getting his 10th goal of the year, shorthanded, assisted by Sam Carrick, and that goal happened with 43 seconds to go in the frame. Taylor Hall would break the tie in the second, getting his 6th goal of the year from Bedard and Dickinson, 6:16 of the middle frame, and that's where we'd stand at the end of regulation. So the Blackhawks would go in and defeat the Rangers 2-1. All right, now we'll take a look at Tuesday's action, and after this, I should be finally caught up with my videos. Okay, so we had a total of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 games. This will probably take the longest out of all the 3 days of hockey. Alrighty, so we'll start things off in New Jersey as the Devils played host to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Andre Palat would kick things off for the Devils in the first, getting his 4th goal of the year from 7:16 of the second period. There was no scoring in the first. Pontus Holmberg would get a shorthanded goal in the third, tying the game up at 1. 10:42 of the third. For Holmberg, that'd be his 2nd goal of the season from Dewar and Tanev. We would need overtime to settle this one, and the captain, Austin Matthews, would get the game-winning goal, his 9th of the season, 2:51 in the overtime frame, unassisted, so the Maple Leafs would win 2-1. The Pittsburgh Penguins played host to the Colorado Avalanche. Spoiler alert, McKinnon and Rantanen definitely went off in this game. Speaking of McKinnon, he would kick things off for the Avs in the first, getting his 10th goal of the year from Rantanen, assisted by Rantanen and Devin Tays, 6:31 of the first. Rantanen would get on the goal scorer sheet himself, getting his 16th goal of the season, assisted by Cale Makar, 18:22 of the first. He would score again in the second, getting his 17th of the season from DeHaan and McKinnon, 5:46 of the middle frame, increasing the lead to 3-0 at that point. Cody Glass would finally get on the goal scorer sheet for the Penguins, getting his 1st goal of the season from Malkin and Letang, 7:21 of the second. Michael Bunting would cut the lead to 3-2 with 1 minute and 7 seconds to go. For Bunting, that'd be his 7th goal of the season, assisted by Erik Karlsson and Brian Rust. Valerie Nichushkin would increase the lead to 4-2 in the third period, 3:23 exactly. For Nichushkin, that would be his 7th goal of the year, assisted by McKinnon, who has 34 assists. That is absurd. Arturi Lehkonen would increase the lead to 5-2, 12:21 in the third period. For Lehkonen, that would be his 8th goal of the season from Rantanen and McKinnon. And then Rantanen would get a empty netter. The Penguins were down by 3 goals with over 5 minutes to go. They thought pulling their goalie would be a good idea. It backfired. So Rantanen, like I said, would get his 2nd goal of the game, his 18th of the season from McKinnon and Devin Tays. And that goal happened with 4 minutes and 52 seconds to go. So Rantanen and McKinnon both finished with 5 points, respectively. Okay, now we're off to Carolina as the Hurricanes played host to the San Jose Sharks. Brett Burns is facing off against his former team. Shane Gothenburg would kick things off for the Hurricanes in the first, getting his 6th goal of the year from Carrier and Roslovic, 4:26 of the first period. Luke Kunin would score with 1 minute and 9 seconds to go in the first, getting his 7th goal of the year from Celebrini and Cody Ceci. He would score again, getting his 2nd goal of the game, his 8th of the season from Eklund, 11:44 of the middle frame, putting the Sharks on top 2-1. In the third period, funny how I just talked about Brent Burns, he would tie the game up, getting his 2nd goal of the season from Aho and Nichis, 4:11 of the third period. Jalen Chatfield would break the tie with 2 minutes and 39 seconds to go, getting his third goal of the season unassisted, and that would end up being the game-winning goal and the final game from this match. So 3-2 would be the final score in favor of the Hurricanes. The next matchup took place in Columbus as the Blue Jackets played host to the Philadelphia Flyers. Noah Cates would kick things off in the first, getting his second goal of the season, 4:37 into the opening period, assisted by Forster and Cam York. Owen Tippett would increase the lead to 2-0. For Tippett, that'd be his ninth goal of the season from Drysdale and Frost, 10:56 of the first frame. Travis Konechny would increase the lead to 3-0, getting a power play goal 6 minutes and 11 seconds into the second. For Konechny, that'd be his 14th goal of the year, assisted by Brink and Michkov. Zach Werenski would finally get the Blue Jackets on the board late in the third, getting a power play goal, his ninth of the season, assisted by Marchenko. Travis Konechny would get his second goal of the game, his 15th of the season from Farabee and Sealer, and that goal happened with exactly 1 minute to go in the second. In the third, Morgan Frost would increase the lead to 5-1, getting his fourth goal of the season, assisted by Michkov, 1 minute and 55 seconds into the third period. Sean Monahan would cut into the lead, getting his ninth goal of the season from Fabro and Johnson, 11:42 of the third period, making it 5-2. Kent Johnson would cut the lead to 5-3 with 47 seconds to go. For Johnson, that'd be his ninth goal of the year from Severson and James Van Riemsdyk. And unfortunately, the Blue Jackets just ran out of time, so 5-3 would be the final score in favor of Philadelphia. All right, now we're off to Long Island as the New York Islanders played host to the Los Angeles Kings. Adrian Kempe would kick things off in the first, getting his 14th goal of the year, assisted by Kopitar and Trevor Moore, 13:51 of the opening frame. Kevin Fiala would increase the lead to 2-0 in the second, 3 minutes and 9 seconds to be exact. For Fiala, that'd be his 10th goal of the season, assisted by Edmondson and Turcotte. Anders Lee would cut into the lead 9 minutes and 47 seconds into the second. For Lee, that'd be his 13th goal of the season, assisted by Palmieri and Brock Nelson. Late in the third, the Islanders were down by 1. They pulled their goalie, but unfortunately it did not pan out, as Mikey Anderson would get the empty net goal, his 4th of the season, assisted by Adrian Kempe. And that goal happened with 14 seconds to go in the games. The Kings would win 3-1. All right, now we're off to Nashville as the Predators played host to the Calgary Flames. Jonathan Marchessault would kick things off in the first, getting his 6th goal of the season from Stamkos and Philip Forsberg, 7:45 of the opening frame. Nazem Kadri would tie the game up at 1, getting his 9th goal of the season, assisted by Jonathan Huberdeau, 10:22 of the first. Tommy Novak would give the Predators a 2-1 lead, 10:52 in the first. For Novak, that'd be his 4th goal of the season, assisted by Jankowski and Evangelista. Kevin Rooney would tie the game up at 2 minutes and 27 seconds into the middle period. For Rooney, that'd be his 3rd goal of the season, assisted by Dewar. Jonathan Marchessault would get his 2nd goal of the game, his 7th of the season from Forsberg, 7:41 of the middle frame, putting the Predators back on top, 3-2. Braden Patchell would get his 1st goal of the season from Pelletier and Rooney, 13:49 of the second period, tying the game up at 3. Late in the second, with 1 minute and 19 seconds to go, Jonathan Huberdeau would put the Flames back on top, getting his 10th goal of the year, they would get on top, getting his 10th goal of the season, a power play marker from Coronado and Zari. And that goal happened with 1 minute and 19 seconds to go in the second. There was no scoring in the third, so we would finish with a 4-3 Flames victory. All right, now we're off to Winnipeg as the Jets played host to the Boston Bruins. Now, this was a one-sided affair, to say the least. Vladislav Nebesnikov would kick things off in the first, getting his 7th goal of the year on the power play from Niederreiter and Pionk, 12:09 of the opening frame. Mark Scheifele would tie the game up with just under 2 minutes to go, would increase the lead to 2-0, getting his 15th goal of the season from Connor and Velarde. In the second, Mark Scheifele would strike again, getting his 2nd goal of the game, his 16th of the season from Morrissey, 7:02 of the second on the power play. David Pastrnak would finally get the Bruins on the board, 9:13 in the second period, cutting the deficit to 3-1. For Pastrnak, that would be his 10th goal of the season on the power play from McAvoy and Brad Marchand. Kyle Connor would increase the lead to 4-1, getting his 16th goal of the season, assisted by Scheifele 1 minute and 15 seconds into the third period. Gabriel Velarde would increase the lead to 5-1, getting his 12th goal of the year, assisted by Connor, 5:33 of the third period. Alex Iafallo would increase the lead to 6-1, getting his 5th goal of the year, a power play goal from Pionk and Chibrikov. Mason Appleton would score in the third with 3 minutes and 44 seconds to go. For Appleton, that'd be his 6th goal of the season from Fleury and Lowry, 16:16 of the third. Just 10 seconds after that, Nikita Chibrikov would get his 1st goal of the year, assisted by Perfetti, giving the Jets a 8-1 lead and an 8-1 finish. A massive game for the Jets. All right, now we're off to Edmonton as the Oilers played host to the Tampa Bay Lightning. 17:31 in the first period, Connor McDavid would strike, getting the Oilers their 1st goal of the game. For McDavid, that would be his 14th goal of the season from Draisaitl and Brett Kulak. Jake Gensel would tie the game up just over halfway through the second period, getting his 13th goal of the year from Kucherov and Braden Point. So that was 10:02, 11:58, so almost 2 minutes after that, Leon Draisaitl would put the puck on net. Unfortunately, it would bounce off a Tampa player and into the net, and that would end up being the game-winning goal. For Draisaitl, that would be his 20th goal of the season. The Utah Hockey Club played host to the Minnesota Wild. In the first, Kevin Stenlund would give the Utah Hockey Club a 1-0 lead, getting his 4th goal of the season from Carcone and Nada, 13:46 of the opening frame. Oh boy, I'm going to have a fun time trying to say this name. Merit Kuznetsov would get his 1st National Hockey League goal, 14:25 in the second period, tying the game up at 1. Kirill Kaprizov would put the Wild up 2-1, 15:01 in the second period, getting his 18th goal of the year, assisted by Marcus Johansson. Clayton Keller would tie the game up at 2, getting his 8th goal of the season on the power play from Sergachev and Genther, 4:42 of the third. Marcus Johansson would put the Wild back on top, 5:39 in the third period. For Johansson, that would be his 4th goal of the season, unassisted. Clayton Keller would tie the game up at 3, getting his 9th goal of the season on the power play from, Clayton Keller, assisted by Genther and Sergachev, 9:54 of the third frame. Juuso Välimäki would increase the lead to 4-3, getting his 2nd goal of the season from Kraus, 11:45 of the third period. Marco Rossi would tie the game up at 4, getting his 10th goal of the season from Johansson and Boldy, 19:16 of the third period. And that's where it'd stand at the end of regulation. So Minnesota has been absolutely red hot this last couple of weeks. The Vancouver Canucks played host to the St. Louis Blues. In the first period, Dakota Johnson would get his first goal of the year from Garland and Myers 8 minutes and 2 seconds into the first. Just a minute and 13 seconds after that, I believe, Zach Bolduc would tie the game up at 1, getting his fourth goal of the year. 9:15 of the first period. Oops, wrong one. I gotta scroll back down. Where was I? Vancouver, Dakota Joshua, Bolduc scored 9:15. Robert Thomas would give the Blues, I should say, their first lead of the game. His fifth goal of the season, shorthanded from Parayko and Buchnevich. That goal happened with 2.5 minutes to go in the frame. Jordan Kyrou would finally put a little bit of life. No, I'm just kidding. He would increase the lead to 3-1. Giving the Blues a 3-1 lead, like I said, that would be his 10th goal of the season on the power play from Thomas and Falk. 3 minutes and 42 seconds remaining on the clock. Elias Pettersson would cut the deficit to 3-2. For Pettersson, that'd be his 8th goal of the year on the power play from Besser and Garland. Jake DeBrusk would tie the game up at 3 with a minute and 52 seconds to go. So DeBrusk would score his 13th of the year from Pettersson and Besser. We would need overtime to settle this one, and the game-winning goal would be settled by Dylan Holloway, the newest acquisition from the Oilers, and he seems to be fitting in just fine, in my opinion. So Holloway would get his 10th goal of the year from Thomas with a minute and 40 seconds in the overtime frame. So the Blues would get a huge 2 points in Calgary. And the last game from Tuesday took place in Seattle as the Kraken played host to the Florida Panthers. In the first period, Chandler Stevenson would kick things off for the Kraken, getting his 3rd goal of the year, assisted by Gord and McBain. 15:39 of the first period. Alexander Barkov would score, getting his 9th goal of the year from Reinhart with 1 minute to go on the clock. And then the game nothing was settled in the 3rd period or overtime. We'd have to go to a shootout where Alexander Barkov would get the game-winning goal, and Florida would escape with a 2-1 victory. Okay, so now that I'm finally caught up on all the games, I can now officially take a look at the standings, and as I do with the almost every video, I take a look at the wildcard positions and go down. Okay, so in the Atlantic Division, the Florida Panthers are back on top with a record of 18-9-2. They have 38 points. The Toronto Maple Leafs are 17-9